The Money Show.
Personal Finance with Warren Ingram.
Well, it is, of course, the first Tuesday of December, and Warren Ingram being Warren Ingram, he's quite a good planner. I think you possibly know this about him. It's why we have him on the radio once a week to talk about personal finance. He has worked out what you should do at this time of year to manage your money. Warren, good evening. Good to talk to you again. Been a little while. I suppose you're the only person I know who is thinking about planning so nicely ahead through December. It is actually a very good moment to just stop for a minute and look at where you go, look at what you've done and look at where you're going.
You know, Stephen, I'm talking to a lot of people at the moment who are feeling frazzled because it's the end of the year and there's a few things to get done before the holidays start, and other people who are just absolutely drained after a long and exciting year. And so for me, this is just to say, start thinking about this stuff now. You don't have to do it all in day one or week one, but you know, through the month of December, as things wind down, just make sure that you give yourself a little bit of a to-do list so that you can close off this year on the best note possible, and then secondly, start 2025 on a strong footing and actually taking control of your money. You know, I think I'm getting to the realization that a lot of the time our money issues seem enormous to us. You know, a lot of people really grapple with their money troubles, and once you almost put a to-do list together, it's almost not so bad anymore because you know what to do tomorrow and the next day and the next week, and so this is maybe the to-do list, Stephen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a plan. Your first point is to check your credit score.
So I think a lot of people in our country live with debt, and you know, it's one of the big talking points. And in terms of the law, we're allowed to approach the debt counselors and actually get one free check of our credit score per year. And I think it's something we should take advantage of. If you're in a position where you've got some debt and you're worried that maybe you don't have a great score, stop worrying about it and actually find out. You know, get the information and get to understand what your score is, and then most importantly, take steps to see what you can do to improve that score over the next year, and maybe, you know, it might not get right all in one shot, but certainly what you want to know is what's the reality, not what your imagination is telling you and what you fear. And then secondly, find out what are the steps that you need to take to get it right. And often it's not as big an issue as you think. It might be very small, very practical steps that you can take to get your credit score in the right place. And why this is important is, number one, it gives you access to finance. And I'm not the biggest fan of going to get debt just because you can obtain it. You know, I think you should avoid debt wherever possible. But if you are in a position where you have debt, and that describes a lot of people in our country, then making sure that you're paying the lowest amount of interest that you can. And one of the things that determines your interest rate is your credit score. So it's really worth your while to find out what your score is and how you can improve it.
Also, of course, you know, it should save you money because it just makes credit so much easier. I mean, and as you say, it's free to do. You approach the agencies to do it?
Yep, and just Google, you know, I want to check my credit score, and a lot of the banking profiles nowadays have a credit score. I can see it on my app where I can see how I'm going. Thankfully, it's giving me green all the time, so that means I'm doing well. That's probably because I've got no debt, but I'm thankful to check it anyway, just in case someone had taken some debt out in my name that I didn't know about. So check your banking app and then go online if you haven't got a banking app that provides a credit rating for you, and yeah, you know, once a year you're allowed to do it. You're allowed to get that check without having to pay for it.
You also suggest that we should maximize your retirement fund contributions. Obviously, there's certain regulations around how all of this works.
We're allowed, it's one of the very few gifts we get from our beloved friends at SARS. And one of them is that if we make contributions to our retirement funds, a portion of those retirement fund contributions get deducted from the tax that we pay. And you're right, there are rules. Number one, the main limit is 27.5% of your taxable income. So just to explain that, so if you just earn a salary, then 27.5% of your salary is the maximum contribution that you can make to a retirement fund to get a tax break. And of course, it's not unlimited. So, they don't want the billionaires to score from this. So the limit is to a maximum of 350,000 Rand a year. So if your salary is 6 million Rand a year, then 27.5% is way more than 350,000 Rand. So your tax benefit will only be up to 350,000. But important to remember that it's not just your salary. If, for example, you've got some money in the bank and you're earning interest, that you pay tax on that interest, so that gets added to the calculation. And if you've got a property that you're renting out, then the taxable income from the property, which is the rent, also gets added to it. So it's worth just understanding what your taxable income has been for the tax year. And this is an important point. This doesn't work on a calendar year, Stephen. So it starts on the 1st of March and goes to the end of Feb. And the reason why I'm bringing it up now is you want to make sure that you are maximizing those retirement contributions before it's too late. And so understanding where you are by the end of December gives you some time and space to find the money to do those retirement fund top-ups. And who knows, if you haven't done the contributions to the max, you might be able to top up and get a nice refund from SARS. And one day they might even pay those refunds.
Stop it. You also talk about updating your spending plan. I mean, I presume this is about making sure that you're actually spending money where you should be spending it.
Yep, and we live with a cost of living increase in South Africa that's quite severe in some months and in some years, and this year it's gone a bit better. The last CPI number that we saw was 2.8, I think 2.8%, which is remarkable. But just to understand that when the Reserve Bank tells us what our CPI number is, that's not your cost of living. That doesn't dictate or indicate what you've been spending and how much your costs have been going up, because each of us spend slightly differently. So some people might buy more basic goods and some people might buy more imported goods. And so for each of us every year, our cost of living will change. And I think, it's really worthwhile understanding what your number was at the start of the year. And now as the year closes out, just check what your cost of living has actually been over the last few months. And if necessary, look at your spending plan to say, well, I thought that, out of every 100 Rand that I earn, I'm only going to spend 30 on food, but actually it's been 25, or more likely it's been 35. And so you need to figure out what that is and make sure you've got control over what's going out. We don't often have a lot of control of how much we're earning, especially if we just earn a salary. But what we can do is just understand what has been going out of our bank accounts on a monthly basis, and then making sure that they line up with our plans. If you were planning to save for a nice big holiday or deposit on a car, and that goal hasn't really been met, then understand why. Figure it out and make sure that that spending plan is correct. And before you accuse me of being the Scrooge, who ruins Christmas, I'm not saying don't spend. I'm just saying get control and make sure that you're spending in the right places. And by all means, you should be spending on some fun stuff, spend on the family, spend on some experiences, but do it in control and do it according to the plan.
Yeah, absolutely. It is all about just do it according to the plan. On that point, and this is something that's so easy to forget, just check your will. Just make sure it's going to go in the right place, and it's very easy to do.
Yeah, I think it's, this, for me, I always kind of spend a little bit of December just reflecting on what's happened in the year and what have I learned as a financial planner, and, what should I be emphasizing to people who want to know more. And for me, this is one that I think we tend to ignore as human beings. Thinking about our death is, it's probably one of the bleakest things we can do. And we're not good at looking at the things that are hard to look at. So we avoid them. And unfortunately, this is one of those things that we're not going to get out of here alive. So we need to make sure that our plans for our death are correct, and most especially what happens to our assets and what happens to our loved ones when we die. And so making sure that your will is up to date is really key. And some of the questions to ask are, have you got married? Have you got divorced? Are there new children? Is there anyone that you're taking care of financially now that you weren't taking care of when your will was last updated? And so, it's the big kind of life events that we might just, gloss over, because, it's a lot to get married and plan the wedding, plan the honeymoon and all that stuff. And then, there's some boring guy, telling you that you should check your will. And if you got married in Feb and you haven't done your will, well, here we are telling you to check your will, and just make sure that everyone that needs to be taken care of is taken care of. And if you've got, a new child in your life, then make sure that you've got it written down who the person or the people are that are the nominated carers for your child in the event that you and your spouse or partner have died, and make sure that everyone's consulted and is up to date on what your plans are. So I know it's a bit of a bleak topic, but I think it's one, just get it done, get it sorted out so that it's something you don't have to worry about and have that sort of nagging little feeling that's bothering you through the whole of the holiday, and maybe affects the way you drive on the roads. And next time you get cut off by a taxi, you have these flashes that that could have been a lot worse than it was. So just get it sorted out, and preferably before you go and spend tens of hours on our roads.
And then also you've got to make sure that you have enough insurance on your life and your health and your various possessions. I mean, this is a good moment to check on all of those things, and those possessions can change over the Christmas period.
Yep, we it's one of those things when times are tough, people tend to look at where they can cut costs, and unfortunately, a lot of people would say, "Oh, I'm just going to cancel my my insurance on my car, or cancel my insurance on my stuff." And I always think, that's really tempting fate, because when you don't have insurance on your car, for example, and you have an accident, especially an accident that you might have caused, you're not only responsible for your own car, you're responsible for the damage that you've caused to any other cars as well. And so, if the other person's insured and you're not, don't think that you're okay. What happens is that insurance company will take care of their client, but they're coming after you for the money that they've spent to look after their client. And so if you're uninsured, you might have a lot bigger financial difficulty than you thought. And insurance companies don't just let you get away without paying back for your side of the issue. And then a lot of the time we go on holiday, and if we're leaving our houses empty and unattended, just know that the thieves are not asleep on the holidays. And so making sure that you've taken care of your possessions from an insurance point of view makes all the sense. I guess while I'm speaking about it, just making sure that your physical safety of your property as well is also taken care of. That makes a lot of sense. Nothing worse than coming back from a lovely holiday and your house has been cleaned out. And then, to the point around our life and health insurance, making sure that you're on the right medical plan so that your health is looked after. And then, again, we talked about your will, but often attached to that will be your life and disability insurance, and it's particularly difficult to explain to sort of younger salary earners, because I know we all think we're going to live forever when we're 25, but that's the age when you really need to make sure that you've got disability insurance, so that if you are injured in an accident and not able to work anymore, that you found a way to ensure your ability to earn an income, even though you can't work for the rest of your working life. So I'm sorry that it's such a tough topic, but I think take care of those basics, and you probably will never need them. But if you don't take care of them, it's amazing how Murphy arrives and messes up your life.
We're talking to Warren Ingram in personal finance. He's a certified financial planner at Galileo Capital. Just the end-of-year closeout, if you like, of personal finances.
The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes.
Just a statement from the presidency in the last few moments, and I know the Eyewitness News team will have more for you in the news bulletin at 8 o'clock. But my understanding is that Thembi Nkadimeng, the Minister of Justice, has actually been removed from her position and has now been appointed the Minister of Human Settlements. Mameloko Kubai is the Minister of Human Settlements, will now become the Minister of Justice, and you'll be aware, of course, of all of the claims. There was more reporting, both in News 24 and Daily Maverick this morning, around Thembi Nkadimeng, around formerly known as Thembi Simelane as well, former mayor of Polokwane, but all around, in a way, all around money. And the loan, she claimed it was a loan at least, that was certainly her version, that she had received from someone who had been an advisor and very involved in the VBS scandal. I suspect that there'll be a lot of reaction to the story. More for you on that. Full details, there are other changes too, in the Eyewitness News in just 8 minutes' time.
The Money Show.
Personal Finance with Warren Ingram.
Warren Ingram, of course, a certified financial planner at Galileo Capital. And Warren, sorry to interrupt you with that breaking news about the Justice Minister there, but certainly a significant development in many ways, all about money, VBS and things that have gone wrong. You had a question, Warren. It came from Frank and it came in through the week. And he said, I'm working towards being disciplined financially, but I'm struggling to figure out how to strike a balance between financial health and enjoying or living life now. Do you have any pointers? And Warren, in a way, this is the real tension of what you do. You're planning for the future by being disciplined now, but that does mean you don't necessarily get to live the life or have as much money to live the life as you want to spend now. It's the real tension of the entire conversation. How do you go about deciding what's better financially for the future and life right now?
I think it starts with the things that are most meaningful to you as a person, and for each of us that will be different. So if you're looking to strike the balance, it's already a great approach, because for some people they're so absolute, they will only save or they will only enjoy life right now, and I think the balance is the key word here. So to me, it starts with saying, for me as a person, what are the most important things that give me fulfillment, that give me purpose in life? And for some people that might be providing for their children. For others it might be overseas travel or going to the bush or saving to go and run the comrades every year. Whatever it is that really motivates you, that gives you purpose, that makes you smile, that gets you up in the morning, that's one of the things you need to focus on, to say that's the most important thing. And for some people it might be as simple as buying a new car every 3 years. I mean, that certainly doesn't describe me, but that might be the thing. And if that is your thing, then saying, okay, I need to set aside money on a monthly basis for the thing that really gives me fulfillment, and that's not going to be a financial goal on its own. In other words, it's not going to just be for your retirement. It's going to be for something that fulfills you as a person. What happens then is that all the other things that you spend money on that aren't related to your ability just to eat or just somewhere to live, and it's things like spending on entertainment and maybe going to the mall or on restaurants or whatever it is. If all of those things are not that meaningful to you and you happen to just be in a habit, it allows you to stop and have a look at all of those habits to say which of those, one or two or three of those habits that I'm stuck in now, can I simply cut without really compromising the real purpose, the real meaning in my life. And that allows you to start making some sensible trade-off decisions. Because I think if you're in your 30s and you potentially got 50 to kind of 70 years of life, then you certainly can't be saving only for your retirement. I always remember Warren Buffett saying he wouldn't have got into his 90s if he only ate broccoli and drank water. He would have died of boredom and unhappiness long before then. And I think that's true. We have to be happy with our lives, but it starts with understanding what are the really meaningful things to us. And it's not what the books say or the things that you want to tell people because they're impressive, where you say, well, I want to save the world or save the rainforests. If that's true and that's meaningful to you, well done. But if it's not meaningful to you, be honest with yourself to figure out those goals and then allocate some money to those. And the balance, then you start to say, well, I need to eat, I need to sleep, I need to save for my long-term financial future. But the most important things to me are also catered for. And I think it's about getting the balance, Stephen, before just kind of following a textbook plan of, save 15% of your salary and everything will be fine. That's not meaningful for a lot of people.
Life is meant to be lived, and life has to be worth living is really what you're saying. Otherwise, there's no point in even thinking about a future. You do actually have to live. In December, go on holiday if that's what, floats your boat. If you're someone who likes to have a boat to float, then float it.
Exactly right, and I think I mean, back to that point around the spending plan. It's not saying don't spend on the boat, or at least spending time on a boat. If that's really meaningful to you, well done, and go and do it. It's just making sure that it's structured and planned so that you enjoy the time and you're not sitting there feeling guilty or worrying and concerned because you haven't catered for this or planned for it. It is part of the plan, and I think it's such a magic time for us to say let's just relax a little bit, give ourselves a bit of time to breathe and think, and at the same time, putting those plans in place allows you to, number one, get the enjoyment, and number two, know that you've taken care of the basics, and then number three, just live the life. We've learned from this pandemic that it disrupted life so much that things can change very significantly, very quickly, and I'm certainly not here to say to everybody, you may only live for tomorrow.
Warren Ingram, thank you very much indeed. Good to hear from you. Good to hear your thoughts on that. Certified financial planner at Galileo Capital.